Welcome back. I'm Dennis Michael Lynch. I'm filling in for Steve today as he observes Yom Kippur. And joining me now is the Malzberg panel. They are Ford O'Connell, Republican strategist and political analyst, and Nomiki Konst, a liberal and a founder and executive director of the Accountability Project and host of the Accountability Podcast. So I am going to start with you, Mr. O'Connell. With Governor Walker dropping out of the race, who benefits most in the GOP?
Two people come to mind. The first is Florida Senator Marco Rubio from a donor and a staff perspective, and the other person is Ohio Governor John Kasich, because a big part of Walker's path to the nomination was a Midwestern strategy, and if Kasich actually is able to win New Hampshire, his path to nomination would go through the Midwest, and with Walker out, it makes his life a lot easier.
You know, tomorrow I'm going to be interviewing Governor Huckabee. What about him? He doesn't benefit at all?
No, he doesn't benefit at all because, in all honesty, you have a whole bunch of strong social conservatives running, and this time, unfortunately for Governor Huckabee, he's a great guy. He's a one-trick pony who hasn't figured out how to get beyond social conservatives, and you have a lot of folks like Ted Cruz, Donald Trump, etc., who appeal to more than one group. So Governor Huckabee's time's limited going forward.
Nomi, no joke, all seriousness. I mean, from a Democrat's point of view, which is always cloudy, but did you want Governor Walker in that race, or were you scared of that guy? Because, I mean, he won 3 elections in how many years, right?
He won 11 elections, actually. I think that Democrats didn't like the idea of Scott Walker, but he also was a one-trick pony. He had, he fought unions, and let's be real, he wasn't ready for prime time. He doesn't have the charisma. He doesn't really have the leadership skills. He couldn't even butt in on stage. I actually don't think that any support was left for Governor Walker, and no one's going to be taking any support from him. He's just going to be one less person on stage, and that's the reality of the situation. But it's a win for unions, and it's a really great gimmick for unions to raise money. I'm already getting the emails. That's great for Democrats. Another reason for us to say, like, look, we're winning. We got him out of the race. I don't know if that's true, but it's good for Democrats.
Trust me, Scott Walker did himself in. Unions didn't do anything to get him out, in all honesty.
I agree with you. But politics is politics.
Enthusiasm, and in all honesty, stumbled all over the place on foreign policy and national policy, and there was always the Donald Trump factor, and once he boomed and couldn't recover, Donald Trump was going to eat up the airwaves. There was never going to be a second chance.
Yep, you're right.
Now, Ford, I don't know if you know this or not, but Nomi is in love with Joe Biden, and she is doing everything she can to make sure that he is the next president of the United States. Who do we want on the GOP to go up against Biden?
To go up against Biden, we could have a whole set of people, but I think right now your best situation might be actually Marco Rubio and Carly Fiorina, but there's a whole host of permutations and combinations that could give Joe Biden a lot of trouble. The reason is Joe Biden, should he get in this race, has an incredible argument with among Democrats who see President Obama at a 76% approval rating, is that he's the rightful heir to carry that on. But come the general election, the very argument that could help Biden win the nomination could be his downfall, because in all honesty, we want to tag Obama's policies to Biden.
Now, Nomi, let me ask you a question. I mean, with the Pope in Washington, D.C., do you think that the Pope is going to try to ignore Biden like the rest of us do?
What kind of question is that?
It's a real question.
They just shook hands. Biden's a Catholic. I think that he has strong Catholic roots, and I think that's what makes Biden appeal to middle America. I mean, there's a lot of it's the Kasich factor. It's the Midwest factor. He has roots in the Midwest. He's able to identify with white, socially conservative voters that were maybe union workers. That is a big factor in this election, and especially when it comes down to talking about things like income inequality. I am scared of Carly Fiorina as a Democrat running against Joe Biden, and I'm scared of Marco Rubio as well. I'm not as scared of Jeb Bush, except for the fact that he has the money and he has the resources and the organizational power. I don't think that Fiorina, I think she might also be a one-trick pony. She's very good. She's very quick. She's studied. But the problem is that she doesn't have the real experience, and the experience she does have is flawed. It's deeply flawed. It's being ridiculed by Republicans. I was on a Republican show the other day, and every single Republican on the panel was challenging her record, and every Democrat is as well. So that's going to be the real tough part for Carly.
Let me add to that on Carly Fiorina. Here's the deal. Obviously, she's generating a lot of attention. She has to overcome the HP problem, because in all honesty, it's not an answer that fits on a bumper sticker. And unfortunately, it requires a lot of voters to have a certain acumen about business to understand what she said. She had a rocky tenure and a volatile period, but she has to find a way to overcome that, and that's why I think ultimately she's going to come down to the top two choices for VP on the Republican side.
Really?
I agree with that.
Really? I'll tell you what. You know, I was in the, before I got into media, I was in a computer business. I hired some of her top brass, and when they came over, the first thing they did was they rolled their eyes about Carly Fiorina, and I think she's going to have to give a lot of answers, because we know that Donald Trump, once he starts feeling that she is a serious candidate that's going to start taking his wind, he's going to do everything he can to chop her down. Let me ask a different question. I put up a very interesting scenario, because it could possibly happen. It's sort of like here in New York in baseball season, we always hope for the Yankees and the Mets to meet up. What happens if Carly Fiorina and Hillary Clinton are both running for the presidency?
If I can jump in here, I think that I am not a Hillary Clinton backer. I'm not working on her campaign, and I've been very critical of her, but she has the experience, and she has the real depth of understanding of the issues. You cannot debate that. Carly Fiorina right now is reading talking points. She's memorizing things very well. She has great one-liners, and you have the right and the left that have both said that she really needs to do a little bit more research on these topics. She was prepared for the foreign policy debate because Donald Trump was criticized so much after his interview with Hugh Hewitt, and so when she went in with her Hugh Hewitt interview, she was prepared knowing all the names. But it's got to go further.
Well, let me say this about Carly Fiorina. The plus side is she helps basically downplay the gender card that Hillary Clinton wants to play, because she basically says she's an outsider because she's a woman. That said, Carly Fiorina also has authenticity and trustworthy numbers that, frankly, Hillary Clinton can't buy.
Ford, let me cut you off. We're going to pick this up on the other end. Up next with the panel, but before that, Carly Fiorina, she is surging in the polls, there's no question about it. But does she have what it takes to be the next president? Newsmax answers with a special free offer for Carly Fiorina's book, Rising to the Challenge. This is a must-read for everybody who's interested in Carly. Just go to newsmax.com/Carly and get your free copy of Carly Fiorina's book, Rising to the Challenge, right now. That's newsmax.com/Carly. Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I'm joined with Nomi and Ford. So, Nomi, are you into the whole legalizing pot thing?
Absolutely, and I think it's a bipartisan issue now, and partly because we have we're going into debt because of mass incarceration, and legalizing pot in states like Colorado that has a prison system issue where it's overcrowded, where we're paying, where the taxpayers are paying for prisoners to thousands of dollars a day for prisoners who have been caught with an ounce of pot to go into the parole system for far too long. And then there's also the fact that we have border issues. If we want to cut down on this cartel issue in America, where you're laughing at me.
You got to stop. I'm cutting you off on that, because the border issue has nothing to do with marijuana. Ford, I'm going to go over to you. I can't take Nomi's answer
Well,
anymore.
here's the deal. They say that the states are the testing labs for federal policy, and the bottom line is Colorado's getting a crash course in marijuana policy. I think that the issue is going to be revisited, particularly because of the public safety concerns for children. Look, hospitalizations are up 39%. Emergency room visits are up 29%. I'm not sure that Colorado and the states are ready for this. I do think it's eventually going to happen, but I definitely think that Colorado is going to be tweaking its policies in the very near future.
You hit it right on the head. And Nomi, don't you understand that doing one drug leads to doing more drugs?
That's never been proven, and nobody, I mean, listen, there's really actually never been an overdose of marijuana, ever, in history. There are claims of it, but there's never been.
I just read an article today.
Yes,
I just found an article today that
that's
not
been
true.
disproven,
That's
and
bullshit.
that has been disproven because it was mixed with other things. It's the thing that it was mixed with that caused it. Well, this is pure marijuana. It's a pure form of marijuana.
Jack Daniels, I overdosed on coke, and that's why I threw up.
Okay, there's been countless scientific studies about this.
Thank you. Let's move on, just considering that you brought up the border, which is the biggest mistake in the world you could do with somebody like myself, okay?
Okay.
There is a new report that the U.S. immigration hits record high of 42 million people. Ford, is this a good thing for the American worker?
No, it's a terrible thing for the American worker, particularly when 3/4 of the illegal immigrant households are basically on one form of welfare. Look, here's the deal. The biggest ballooning problem is our entitlement program. This is driving it through the roof, and they're taking basically opportunities away from American workers. But the Democrats want to do this because they believe in open borders, and they
bipartisan issue.
Have a political football to continue to win elections, because we know if you keep growing the basically the entitlement state, the Democrats are going to be
You
happy.
can't even qualify for benefits if you're illegal. So that is completely
That
moot.
is
I'm
not
from
true.
Arizona.
Actually,
I'm very
that is
familiar
not
with
true.
immigration laws. You cannot qualify
You're right. You
for
cannot
entitlement
qualify for
issues if
benefits.
you're
You cannot
illegal.
qualify for state benefits, which are being taken from
but
the federal government.
the reason why immigration has surged has nothing to do with Mexico. Sub-Saharan Africa, Middle Eastern countries,
said anything
and
about
Asian
Mexico?
countries are where the
Who said
majority of
anything
the.
about Mexico?
Okay, well, if you were going to talk about it, we said border issue. Where are they coming? People who cross the border, the majority of them have been from Central America and Mexico. And if you do want it to go back to the drug issue, a lot of these people are leaving their regions because of instability, economic instability, partly due to the cartels.
Instability does not give you a right to basically milk the American taxpayer.
Who's milking it? They're
jobs
also
away from
paying
Americans.
taxes.
Wait a minute.
They're
On
paying.
income inequality, which party is actually fighting for the American worker? The Democrats or the Republicans? Come on now.
Okay, do you want to give up your job and go and work in a field? Because the people who are employing these are corporations. The corporations are benefiting from the employers that don't have to be paid by minimum wage. They can be paid under minimum wage, and they're sending their money. They're paying taxes in the cities that they're living
Naomi,
in.
Naomi, this is why we have
Sales
visas.
taxes?
This is why we
part of
have
the economy?
visas for workers, okay?
Sure.
And we don't allow illegal immigration to run wild both at our northern border, our southern border, and
Right.
at Kennedy Airport, okay?
No one's arguing that, and that's why we want
this is the whole
comprehensive
point.
immigration reform.
You mean you want amnesty? You want amnesty.
some people,
you want
yes.
to give away U.S. citizenship as if it comes out of a Cracker
What do
Jacks
you
box.
propose? Do you want to send them all back
exactly
to
right.
Mexico?
You
Is
want-
that
I'll
how
tell
it
you
works?
what,
You
my
want to send
father-
back 7 million people to Mexico? Does that work?
Yeah, you know what? I want to send
How?
everybody home.
How? Tell
I
me
don't
how.
want to
You can
reward
How are you gonna pay for
anybody.
that?
I don't want to
You
reward
can deport
anybody
them, but you're
for
telling me the
illegality.
How are you going to
This
pay for
don't
that?
work.
How am I going to
Question.
pay for it? It's a one-time hit.
How do you
First of all,
pay?
I'll tell you right now how you do it.
Are taxpayers gonna pay for that?
Just let me say this.
No, you're just gonna
I'll
put
tell you
your-
right now. If you cut off the incentive to come here illegally and you don't have a job and you have no way of making any money in this country, you will go home.
Okay.
Most of these people will self-deport. The rest of them need to go home.
So
I am
you're
not
going
gonna
to
throw the
convince
American people under the bus.
corporations to say we are no longer taking. Many of these corporations, corporate leaders, are Republicans, which is why this is a bipartisan issue. Are you going to go and convince them that they're no longer going to allow immigrants to? Who's going to pick the grapes, pick the tomatoes
We have
in the
plenty
fields?
of visas right now for people who are going to pick grapes, okay? This is not about picking grapes. Nobody has a problem with that. What we're talking about, people coming in here and doing jobs that Americans want, like
Like what?
construction. Like construction. And like driving
those are
a
union
truck.
workers. There are a lot
and
of
if you give
unions.
those people permits to work, they're going to start getting the UPS jobs
Right.
and the government jobs.
Well,
and
when
and
you
you're gonna
drive
see
out
more Americans on the
unions,
work.
you bring in the cheaper labor, and that's the type of cheaper labor you get.
Well, let me tell you what I hate. I hate commercials, okay? Now, with Scott Walker dropping out of the race and Carly Fiorina's polls numbers surging, we want to know who you want in 2016. So take the poll at Newsmax, newsmaxpolls.com, and vote for who it is that you want to see to be the nominee for the GOP and to take Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and throw them under the bus.